My name is Masumi Hirose. I'm a 27-year-old housewife. I'd like to tell you about an incident that was caused by some trouble I had with my neighbors. I'm living with my husband, Mitsuru, who is 3 years older than me. We don't have any children yet, but I'm thinking it would be good to start trying soon. However, my husband lives for his hobbies, and whenever he has time, he always goes down to the sea or the river to go fishing. Sometimes I wish he would spend some time at home, but it's not like we have children to take care of, and he seems to be having a lot of fun, so I've decided to let him be. About a year ago, we bought a detached house in a relatively new residential area.
It's this big, we won't have to move, even if we have a lot of kids.
We're not pregnant yet, but I'm happy we can live in a lovely place like this. We're living here together as a happy married couple. The residential area seems to be pretty close-knit, so all the neighbors know each other and have a strong bond. It's quite rare nowadays, but everyone helps each other out when it comes to raising kids and dealing with problems. It looks like the housewives hold lunches at each other's houses regularly. If there's an event, like Christmas or Halloween, there will be a party for the kids to enjoy. Some people might think differently, but I personally prefer this sort of community. And as a result, I feel more proactive every day. I don't have any children yet, but I love that I can spend time with the other residents' children. I feel as though they're sharing their happiness with me, and I'm very grateful. So, I'll be introducing someone who is a significant part in today's story. This is Wakako Mabuchi. She lives next door to us. She's 4 years older than I am and is a housewife too. She lives with her husband, who's a doctor, and her 5-year-old daughter. She's usually a lovely person, and she's a leader type. In the beginning, I got on well with her, but one day, I invited several housewives to have tea at my place. It was a bank holiday, so my husband had the day off too. But he said he'd be going on a fishing trip and had left home the night before. Then, just when I thought we'd be finishing up,
I'm back! Look at this! I caught a lot!
my husband came back home in a good mood. I wasn't surprised. His cooler box was filled to the brim with fish. The other housewives were there too, so... Would you like to take some home with you? I don't think we can eat this much by ourselves. Are you sure? I'd love to. The ladies, Wakako included, were happy to be able to take some fresh fish home. But just a few hours later... Hey, what did you do? What happened? My daughter's had a bad reaction. Bad reaction? She became unwell, and we had to call an ambulance. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but... I'm really sorry to hear that, but why is that my fault? You don't understand? She became unwell because she ate the fish you gave us. You better hope it wasn't rotten. Of course it wasn't. My husband and I ate some, but nothing's happened to us. You're okay after eating it, aren't you? That doesn't matter. It was definitely the fish. You didn't poison it, did you? Of course I wouldn't do anything like that. Oh, shut up! I'm going over to yours, so let's talk things through. My daughter's frail enough as it is. What are you going to do if something happens to her? It seems that Wakako's daughter said that she fell unwell a while after eating the fish. And just as she had promised, Wakako turned up at her door. It's definitely because of the fish. You should pay the hospital bills and compensation. It could be possible that it was food poisoning. However, Wakako's husband had come with her, and according to the results, the cause was unknown. Their daughter had complained of a stomachache and had been swearing a lot, but it seemed like it wasn't food poisoning. That's why I had been a bit irritated and responded. The doctor is saying that the cause is unknown, right? Then please don't make assumptions like that when you don't have any proof. And I hope you're not serious about accusing of me of poisoning your daughter. I could sue you for defamation, you know? Like this, we began to argue. In the end, each of our husbands had to calm us down, and we finally gave up. But, a while after this incident... Oh, Miss Yamada, hello. Oh, hello. A neighbor I had got on well with until now was taking a colder attitude towards me. I thought nothing of it, thinking that perhaps I had called out to them while they were in a bad mood. But the other housewives were obviously looking away when they saw me, and not inviting me to lunches I had been invited to before. They were all strangely distant. I didn't understand what was wrong, and was racking my brain over it when I happened to overhear a conversation from around a corner.
I heard that she gave out rotten fish.
Really? She doesn't seem like the type to do that. Well, Kako's rather wealthy. I guess she was jealous about that. How scary.
Let's stay away from that house.
No matter how you saw it, they were talking about me. It seems that they're thinking that I gave Wakako rotten fish on purpose because I was jealous of her. It wasn't that hard to work out who had spread the rumor. But the situation wouldn't improve if I tried to correct them. I knew that I would only have more to lose if I did. So, because of some wild allegations, I was avoided by all of the neighbors. It was a community with strong bonds, but if you looked at it from another perspective, it was a strong foundation for bullying. I was alienated by the other residents and ended up having to spend my days feeling uncomfortable and awkward. To be honest, the stress I was feeling was off the charts, and I felt depressed. Being considerate of my condition, my husband didn't even go out to fish and stayed by my side at home. He even said this.
You want to move house? It's not worth your mental health to keep on living here. I'll do my best and find a nicer house.
My husband offered me a solution, even though we both knew that we still had loans to pay off for the house. I can't make you do that. We still have to pay for this house.
No problem. I'm the one that brought the fish home in the first place. I don't want to see you suffer anymore.
He was my only ally. I felt that as long as my husband was with me, I was okay. So I began to think more positively about moving house. But we were contacted by someone I didn't expect.
Good evening. I'm sorry to contact you so suddenly. I'm Wakako's husband, Hiroki.
Good evening. How did you find out my phone number?
Do you remember we made a group chat when we had the Christmas party last year? We exchanged numbers then. I'm sorry for messaging you privately.
I don't mind, but can I ask why? If it's about the hospital bills and such, then I'll have to...
No, it's not that. It's not completely irrelevant, though.
What do you mean?
I know I'm being very rude, but could I speak to you in person? It's not suitable to talk about over line.
I don't mind, but... Hiroki was being very mysterious. I wasn't sure what he was talking about. I showed Mitsuru the conversation and...
It seems really serious. I'll sit in it as well.
And offered to stay with me. Wakako's husband came to visit, so we both listened to what he had to say. Hiroki's explanation was so horrific, it was enough to send chills down my spine. If it was true, then this wasn't just some simple neighborly trouble. When he had finished talking, he bowed his head towards us.
I'd really like your cooperation on this. Please!
We've already come this far. We might as well go all the way. My husband and I were determined to help with his request. Hello, do you have some time today?
What?
I spoke with my husband, and we decided that we'd like to apologize properly for what happened to your daughter.
Do you really think an apology will make everything better?
Of course not. We decided to pay for the hospital and pay the compensation you demand.
You finally understand. Fine, I'll visit tomorrow to collect it.
As part of the apology, I wonder if I could treat you to dinner at ours. I've ordered your favorite drinks, snacks, and some cake.
Oh, really? You shouldn't have.
No, it was the least I could do.
If you say so, I'll be looking forward to it.
She took the bait and came to our house the very next day.
I'm sorry you did this much for me.
No, I just wanted to apologize. Don't worry about it. Wakako was eating the food and drink I had prepared and seemed like she was in high spirits. I decided to make my first move here. Your daughter is really frail, isn't she? It must be tough. You're such a wonderful mother for always taking care of her.
Do you think so? I'm just doing what I think is normal.
I heard that she's in the hospital today, too.
Yes, she's got tests today and I can't stay with her. So I plan to go visit tomorrow early in the morning.
That's so tough on you. But I hope I can do the same when I have my own children. When I praised her for her parenting skills, her good mood got even better. It was just like I'd heard from her husband. I guess that this meant that it was pretty much decided. I forced myself not to shiver and continued talking. At 8 p.m., another guest came to visit us.
You look like you're having fun.
Huh? Honey, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to be late home today.
The second guest was Hiroki. His expression was fierce. It seemed that his prediction was correct.
Do you understand what you've done? You lowlife!
Hiroki yelled at Wakako in rage. I'm not surprised. The day Hiroki came to visit me and my husband, he told us this. Once, in the middle of the night, Hiroki got up to get a glass of water from the kitchen. He found Wakako standing there.
Were you up?
Oh, you scared me.
Wakako panicked when Hiroki called out to her. In her hand was a bottle filled with a liquid of some kind, and a pack of the milk that their daughter drank every morning. Hiroki asked her what she was doing, and she replied that she was mixing their daughter's medicine into the milk, since it was easier to drink that way. Wakako acted like nothing had happened, returned the milk to the fridge, and took the other bottle with her in the bedroom. Hiroki was a psychologist, and told us how he had gotten a bad feeling. The worst case scenario played out in his mind was too chilling to bear. The name of the mental disorder was Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Munchausen syndrome is a disorder in which the patient takes medicine and poison, or even hurt themselves on purpose so that they can get treatment at hospital. The reason why they continue to self-harm varies in theories, but what separates it from risk-cutting is that they want to show off that they are sick. While they are being treated, patients receive attention from doctors, and someone is always focusing on them. That in turn becomes pleasurable for them, is one way of seeing it. It's difficult for other people to understand, but apparently there are a lot of mental patients that become obsessed with being treated by a doctor. However, Munchausen by proxy is the obsession of making someone else be seen by a doctor. For example, by making your own child take poison and making them unwell, you can show off that you're a wonderful mother that takes good care of your sickly child. Or you can gain attention as a pitiful mother who's having a tough time with raising her kids. Just as Wakako said, the only daughter of the Mabuchi household was very sickly. She often had a fever, and once a month her condition would worsen. So staying in hospital for a day for tests happened on a regular basis. But for every time she was hospitalized, their daughter would be returned home, with the test results showing that the cause was unknown. These results had bothered Hiroki. Once he saw Wakako acting suspiciously, it seems that he began to suspect that his daughter was a proxy. Just when the time was right, he asked for cooperation. Since we had been accused of causing their daughter's illness this time around while Wakako was invited to her house, Hiroki had gone home, and he'd been searching in his wife's things. He found the small bottle that he'd seen Wakako holding before. He had the contents tested for poisonous materials.
You were using real poison! If there was just a small amount, it wouldn't be fatal. It would only cause her to become unwell. Nobody would notice because they weren't searching for it. I don't even want to imagine how you got a hold of something like this.
Wakako, who had been caught out for her crimes,
No, that's not true.
had gone pale and was frightened.
You used that fish as an excuse, didn't you? You must have used much more poison than usual, which led to us having to call an ambulance. You covered it up by lying that it was because of the fish.
That's not true. That really was the fish.
Shut up! We didn't eat any of the fish we received that day. You put it all in the freezer. I had the fish checked too. and a small-sized portion had remnants of the same poison in that bottle. I bet you were planning to wait for another chance to feed her the fish and say that the fish was to blame after all, weren't you?
Why? Why would I do something like that? I worked so hard for up until now. I was a good mother. Why would I?
What you're doing is the complete opposite of a good mother. You've hurt your own daughter and trying to get satisfaction out of treating your hurt daughter. The one that needs treatment isn't our daughter, it's you.
After hearing Hiroki's words, Wakako fell to the ground in tears.
The police are waiting outside, so don't try to run away from what you've done. And don't you ever come near me or my daughter ever again!
So, Wakako was arrested. The rumors spread fast around the neighborhood, and the housewives that had outcast me came to apologize. However, I knew that if something were to ever happen again, that there was always a possibility of becoming alienated again. So I spoke with my husband and decided to move house. We still had a loan to pay. Because it was relatively new, we thought about renting it out. We found someone to move in right away, and we put the money made from the rent into paying off the loan. Until we save up more money, we'll have to live in an apartment. But we thought it'd be good to live together with no one to bother us again. We're still in touch with Hiroki, and it turns out that Wakako was charged with causing injury and was put behind bars. He was also able to get a divorce. However, Wakako was suffering from a mental disorder. Apparently, Hiroki would be watching over her treatment as a doctor. The problem was their daughter. She had always thought that her mom was taking care of her and was a kind mother, so she had mentioned several times that she wanted to see her mom. Hiroki had explained that her mother was unwell and couldn't see anyone. He had told her that they could see her when she got better. He planned to explain everything to their daughter after Wakako was treated, and if she still wanted to see her mom after knowing the truth, he said that he would arrange meetings.
Hiroki's too kind. If it were me, I would have never let a woman like that see my kids ever again.
That's true, but Hiroki's a doctor, and that's his profession. He must be seeing Wakako from a different perspective than us. Frankly, that incident became an unforgettable event for the both of us. It was still a possibility that I could become a parent like that if we ever had children. It was terrifying. Mitsuru felt the same way.
I've become scared of becoming a parent after seeing them like that. I wonder if I could be a good dad.
Do you want to see your child suffering from the poison you give them?
Of course not! You can't joke about that! Even if it wasn't my own child, I couldn't do that!
Then you're okay. I'm sure you'll become a good father. I don't want to hurt my own children either.
I'll do my best. But first, we need a house! A house! We learned our lesson about detached houses, so let's get an apartment next!
How about we take a walk around the areas that we're interested in? We might be able to take a better look at how the neighbors to get on too.
That's true. My next hobby will be to go on walks with my wife.
It'll be good for her health to walk too. We won't become like Wakako. I have to work harder as a human being to ensure that I can love my children properly when they're born. My name is Manami Kurosawa. I'm a 27-year-old housewife. This time, I'd like to tell you about some trouble that occurred involving my neighbors. It's been 6 months since my husband, Tomio, and I got married. He's the same age as me, and since he changed jobs, he's been allowed to use one of the apartments owned by his company. So we've been living there together. We greeted our neighbors on the day that we moved in. One of them was Erika Wakamiya, a woman who seemed as though she were the same age as me. I found out later that her husband was Tomio's direct manager. If we had any trouble with our neighbors, I thought that it could affect his work environment, so I felt a bit tense. But she seemed like a really frank and open person after talking to her for a while. She was just 2 years older than me, and I think we got on quite well. We began to chat more often when we saw each other in the hallways. She's already lived here for a year, so she knew a lot of the people that were living in the apartments. She was the one that introduced me to the other residents, so I was able to fit in more easily thanks to her. 1 month after moving in, I had made more friends and was able to live comfortably every day. One day, Erica called me on the phone to invite me to have lunch.
We're going to have a tea party with all the ladies. Would you like to come as well?
Of course, I accepted the invitation. Myself, Erica, and 4 or 5 other women would be going to a cafe nearby to have coffee. For about 3 hours, we enjoyed coffees, cakes, and conversation. We decided beforehand that we would split the bill evenly, but...
Huh? That's strange. I can't find my purse.
Erica had been looking around in her bag and suddenly announced that she didn't have her purse. She turned towards me and...
I'm sorry. It looks like I forgot my purse. I'm really sorry, but could you pay for me?
At the time, I didn't think anything of it. Of course, I can pay. I only thought that she was surprisingly quite clumsy, but... A few weeks later... Ever since I had met Erica several times, but it was too awkward. No matter how much I waited and waited, she hadn't paid me back for the cafe bill. I thought she had just forgotten. After that tea party, we had gone out to have lunch with just the 2 of us. But again, she said that she didn't have any change on her, and I paid for the both of us. She didn't make any sign of returning the money I had paid. It wasn't a large amount, but that wasn't the problem. I couldn't bring myself to tell her to pay me back. It was unfair and unreasonable, but I could only give up. I didn't want to make a fuss over money. After making up my mind, I was relaxing at home when I got a message from Miss Takematsu, one of the wives that joined us for the tea party a few weeks earlier. Hey, do you have some time? Yeah, what is it? It's been bothering me, so I wanted to check. But you paid for Erica the day when we went to have coffee, right? Yeah, I did. It's a bit rude of me, but did she pay you back? No, it looks like she's forgotten. I thought so. Have you had the same thing happen to you? Yeah, that day was the first time we all went as a group. Oh, really? Everyone has gone out to have lunch or coffee with Erica in their own time, privately. But she's never paid for herself. Not once? I thought it was just me, but when I saw that she asked you to pay, I wondered if she might have done the same to the others. I asked them and everyone said the same thing. I know that she's not a bad person, but she doesn't like to spend money. So she didn't just forget. She's just going to leave it unpaid. But it's too awkward to ask her to pay it back. That's why you should be careful from now on. Yes, I will. Her husband's really young, but has gotten so successful. I wonder why she's doing something like this. Thank you for your warning. I was convinced by what Miss Takematsu had told me. For example, Tomio and I went to visit my parents' house a few days during the summer. When I came back, I brought a souvenir for Erica. A few days later, I heard that Erica and her husband had gone on holiday, but I didn't get a souvenir in return. Thinking back, there were several times that I invited Erica over to have coffee at my apartment. But I had never been invited to hers. It's not like I expected her to give something back, and I felt that I was a bit shallow for complaining over something so fickle, but I couldn't help but feel bothered by it. I ended up complaining to my husband, asking for advice. And that's it. It's been bothering me. It's not that I want it all back, but it doesn't feel great. Do you get it?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
Sorry for bothering you in the middle of work. I just wanted to get it off my shoulders.
I'm on my lunch break, so it's okay. I didn't think his wife was that stingy.
You said it, even though I did my best not to.
There's no point beating around the bush.
Yeah. Do you mean that her husband isn't stingy at all?
Yeah. If anything, he's really generous. Few of us went out for drinks, but he took the bill. Sometimes when we go to lunch, he even pays for us.
That's a surprise.
He's an efficient worker at work, and he doesn't act all arrogant. I feel like I'm really lucky to have a manager like him.
But his wife is like that, huh? Maybe she's just making up for how much he spends.
I wonder. It doesn't seem like he spends that much money on himself. Whenever we drink, he doesn't stay out too late. He's always talking about his wife, so he's really in love.
The more I hear about him, the more wonderful he seems.
He really is. He's really popular with his managers and his subordinates.
What should I do about his wife?
You don't have to force yourself to hang out with her. Just keep her at arm's length.
So I felt more and more distrusting of Erica. I was complaining about her more and more with the other wives. Everyone else couldn't bear her any longer, and soon we were all avoiding her. It became an unspoken agreement that whenever we went out to have dinner, we wouldn't call Erica. It was a shame, but if we did call her, someone would have to pay for her. Erica herself seemed to realize that, and wouldn't call out to us as proactively as before. I sometimes noticed how lonely she looked and felt guilty, but one day, my husband and I were in the living room, spending time together when the doorbell rang. It was quite late at night, so we wondered who it could be. Erica? Erica stood in her doorway, her expression lifeless. She was pale, and with just one look, I could tell what had happened. We decided to welcome her inside. So we let her in, sat her down, and gave her some tea. She had been silent all the while, so it surprised me when she opened her mouth. But all that came out were weeps and sobs. At first, I thought she was hurt by our alienation, but...
Please help me! I can't live like this anymore!
She began to beg as she bowed her head and cried.
My name is Erica Wakamiya. I'm a 29-year-old housewife. Aichi, my husband, is 8 years older than me and works as a section manager. We live in an apartment building maintained by his company. I was born to a family that ran a subcontract factory building parts for cars and such. We weren't that rich, but I think that we were able to live without any worries. I met my husband when I was in university. He was already working in the company he still works for today, and he came to my father's company to make orders from some parts. I happened to meet him then when my father introduced us. After that, he approached me in private, and we began dating. He was very kind, a gentleman, and I thought he was a wonderful man at the time. While I was still in university, he proposed. And we got married once I graduated. It was favorable for my father's company, so everyone was very supportive of us. Like this, I was fresh out of university and already plunged into married life. This was the beginning of hell for me. Have you seen my phone? No matter where I look, I can't find it. I'm using the laptop to contact you.
Oh, yeah! Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Open the box in the living room.
This is a new phone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's yours. I bought it yesterday to match mine.
Thank you! I'm so happy. But I'm looking for my old phone.
I got rid of it.
Huh? Do you mean you threw it away?
You don't mind, right? It's an old phone.
Yeah, but I need to back up the data first.
Was there something you wanted to keep?
Contacts, photos, and stuff.
I moved the photos to my phone. And you don't need those contacts anymore, right?
What?
You're my wife now. You can throw away your old relationships, right?
Oh, stop joking around. You're scaring me.
Scary? What is?
Huh? Are you serious?
Of course I am. It's only natural, right? You're the one seeing weird things. By the way, did you just leave the house?
Yeah, I thought I'd go buy a cover for the new phone. How did you know?
I had GPS turned on your phone.
This is just one way he began to trap me. The second we got married, he had completely changed. He really was tracking me and was keeping an eye on my every move. He didn't allow me to leave the house after 6 p.m. And he wouldn't let me meet with friends. Whenever I tried to leave the house, he would bombard me with phone calls. His possessiveness grew more and more daily. He wouldn't let me hold money or a credit card. He would only give me money for groceries when I needed it, and would make me hand over receipts for him to check. I couldn't leave the house unless I was with him, and that tortured me. I became emotionally unstable because of the stress and thought I was going insane. The only thing I was allowed to do was to go out with the wives that were living in the same apartment block. Of course, only during the day. Going out with the other ladies was the only time I could relax. But in the end, I lost that too. No wonder. Nobody would want to hang out with a woman that would make them pay for her every time they went out. If anything, I'm surprised they allowed me to do it for so long. I lost the only thing I could live for and tried asking my husband for some money. If I could have some more money for myself, it'd be a great help. Can you think about it? Then he said,
What? Do you want to use it on a new boyfriend or something? I worked hard and made that money. Who the hell do you think you are?
He lost his temper and hit me.
Erica told us everything. She was punched yesterday and somehow managed to apologize and calm him down, but she could no longer bear it and thought that her only chance was now when he was on a business trip and came for us to help. Even though I didn't know about her situation, I apologized for doing something so horrible to her. Now I knew. I couldn't just turn her away. But watching her weep and beg, I didn't know what we could do. The situation was too complicated, so I tried asking her. Can't your family help you? I'd wonder if she couldn't go back to her parents' house and use a lawyer as a middleman after that, but she shook her head. Her family's business was some contract for her husband's company, so if the contract was canceled, it would deal a large blow to her father's company. I only found out when she told us, but H.E. was apparently the son of one of the company's officials, so he had a lot of power. If things didn't go well, her father's business might be forced to go bankrupt. When I heard that, I made up my mind. Understood, let's do something. Erica looked confused as I made a call to a certain person. I didn't want to use this method, but a few days later, H.E. came back from his business trip and came to our apartment. I had explained Erica's desire for a divorce to him, but the second he saw me, he only smiled.
I'm sorry my wife has caused you so much trouble. We'll go home and talk about it.
He was polite, but spoke that he wanted us to hand Erica over, who was standing quietly next to me. That's when a man came out from the back of the room.
Good to see you, H.E. I didn't want to meet you here. CEO? Why? Why are you here?
This is Fumiya Kaneda. He's the CEO of the company that H.E. and my husband work at. He's my father. I guess I'm a rich man's daughter. You might wonder why I'm living in a small apartment leased out by my husband's company. My husband's from a normal middle-class family. He doesn't have a spectacular education or a career. But I really do love him, and I really did want to marry him. But like I said, our positions were way too different. My father wasn't happy with our engagement. But I did everything I could to convince him. Tomio said he would do anything, and as a result,
Then you should work at my company. You have to hide that you're my son-in-law, and promise that you'll be successful enough to take care of my daughter by yourself.
this was my father's condition for our marriage. Because of this, my husband changed jobs to my father's company. Only a few people know about it, so I'm not surprised that Eiichi didn't know. Back to the present, my father announced his decision to the panicked Eiichi.
It's a shame. I thought you were an excellent employee, but I can't keep you on.
Of course, Eiichi was extremely panicked.
Please, wait a moment! I don't know what she told you, but it's just a silly fight,
He rushed towards Erica.
right? We can sort this out by ourselves, right?
I guess this is how he usually dealt with things, but Erica was different this time.
No, it's impossible! There's something wrong with you!
She shouted, as though she had unleashed all of her emotions on him. And my father...
And that's that. I'll tell you the details later. Please, wait! This is just between me and my wife! You can't fire me!
My father sighed, as though he had had enough, and
You haven't just been horrible to your wife, have you?
continued speaking quietly. It seemed that Eiichi had been using his own powers to force women to have sexual affairs with him. Using this an insidious tactic, he had already laid hands on several women, but none of them had been able to sue him. But a few weeks later, a victim had finally used up her courage and spoken out. Because of this, his actions had come to light. It was only a matter of course that he would be fired. By the time I'd called my father, that decision had already been made. He said that he would talk with him about that too, and came to visit us. Like that, Eiichi lost his job with no buts. Eric and his victims all demanded compensation, and he lost all of his fortune and his savings. Erica was able to move back home and redo her life. Even now, we sometimes meet to have a chat. We're back to being good friends. With the money she received from Eiichi, she took me on a trip to a 5-star hotel with a spa. She said that it was for all the trouble she had caused and for saving her life.
My name is Seth Harrison. I'm 23 and it's my first year as a member of society. This episode is about the monstrous black enterprise where I work. I'll first talk about my resume. I graduated from an ordinary university and landed a job at an IT company that wasn't too big nor too small. I studied my butt off while I was a student and learned lots of computer skills, and I happily achieved my dream of becoming a system engineer. I knew that it was going to be a harsh job, but I applied determined to gain experience and take on big projects in the future. However, the life of a system engineer was unlike anything I'd ever imagined it would be. I worked until late at night my first day there. And I got home at around 9 o'clock at night. But even that was when they allowed me to finish early. And my superiors were still hard at it when I left. As the peak of the deadline period approached, known as the death days, working on days off was the norm. And some people even stayed the night at the company. That in itself is ridiculous work, but that's the good side of it all. That's mainly because people basically love doing their work. So while they did say it was very hard, they also said it was fun and fulfilling. What is now my primary source of stress is... The hell? Going home? You still have a ton of work to do! Who cares that it's your wedding anniversary? Your job is more important, goddammit! The existence of the head of my department, Mr. Newson. A veteran employee turning 50 this year. It's clear he can do his job well, but... Finish this up now, and don't go home until you're done. You're not done yet, you incompetent baboon? If your useless ass ain't motivated, just quit. These kinds of utterances were pretty much constant in his life. In other words, he had the temperament of a 1970s gangster and was a deadweight old geezer. The work was of a quiet nature, so normally the workspace should be tranquil. But the echoes of his outbursts of anger could be heard constantly throughout the day. And many people would sneak a few glances as they passed by his quarters. There were a bunch of employees who quit their jobs because of him. But after a whole year since first getting fired, I had become completely accustomed to my work. These were the death days. And I now have a new record of how many consecutive days I worked, and even stayed overnight a few times. I managed to push through, and finally the last day was over and done with. The sun had already risen, and I was walking in the opposite direction of the regular employees of other enterprises. Well, now I was going home after an all-nighter, so duh. I got on my train, got off at my stop, and in a few minutes I would be home. I was desperate for a whole day of rest and relaxation, and maybe that carried me away. Honestly, it was a huge task to move my legs as I walked, and I probably swayed more than I stepped. I stepped onto a crosswalk. And while I was always careful with looking both ways, that day proved to be a tragic mistake. I started to cross it when I heard a voice behind me. Hey, what are you doing? A loud voice brought me to my senses and I realized the light was red. What was worse, although this road wasn't particularly busy, now of all times, I was hit by a car. I hit my head on the pavement and my vision went kaput. Hey, where am I? When I came to, I was on a hospital bed. It seems my life was saved, but... So, you injured your leg, you say? Yes, I contacted the company not too long ago, but you seem to have been absent. I'm terribly sorry the news came to you so late. You gotta be kidding me, boy! The hell are you thinking? Getting injured at this frickin' busiest time? My apologies, I was very careless. Where exactly are you injured again? My right leg. It will take 2 months to fully heal, and I need 2 weeks hospitalization. Hospitalization? You can't be serious. Believe me, sir, I thought so too, but the doctor was very adamant on that point. I'm terribly sorry, but I must be absent from work for some time. Such an audacity, when everyone else is busy as hell. I'm truly sorry. Indeed, as you saw in the messages, my right leg suffered a strong impact and seems to have sustained a compound fracture. Fortunately, there hasn't been any signs of prognostic symptoms, but complete rest was of paramount priority, and I was ordered 2 weeks of hospitalization. Under normal circumstances, I would be tickled pink to finally rest after such relentless toil, but at the time, I only felt guilty over the fact I would be absent from work. My colleagues, who were already working as I slept pretty much, now had to cover my job as well. This made my stomach hurt more than my leg. Such was life, but as someone unexpected stopped by my hospital room. Mr. Newson? Hey, how you doing, boy? Such a strict, harsh character. But how kind of him to show concern for his colleague. Yep, I was honestly impressed for just a split second. All right, then. Seems to be well enough. I brought you something good. It wasn't a box of chocolates that he shoved under my nose as he said so. Here, with this here, you can still do your work. Why, thank you, sir. Oh, don't mention it. It's a veteran's job to take care of his subordinates. What he brought was a laptop computer, prepared by the company. In other words, he urged me to do what I could in my condition, and I did as I was told. I worked in my hospital room. Part of me told myself I couldn't do anything about it. They were direct orders from my boss. But most of it was relief that I could be relieved of the guilt I had on my shoulders. I even thought I was blessed. I typed on that computer from dusk till dawn on my hospital bed. From the point of views of passers-by, I must have seemed like a strange patient, no doubt. There isn't a problem of working on a computer in your hospital room in itself, but I was put under complete rest, and perhaps my work was acknowledged as disobedience, but nurses scolded me.
Do you understand what complete rest even means? It doesn't just mean no walking.
I'm sorry, but compared to Mr. Newton, these nurses were the picture of kindness. After he scolded me, I quickly went back to work. Such was my hospital life. And 3 days later, a new patient was arranged to be next to me.
Hi, I'm your new neighbor. But nah, not really.
She was a beautiful woman who looked around 30 years old. Now she seemed to be very friendly. She also had a fractured leg, though it wasn't as severe as mine.
Yeah, I just fell down the stairs at my workplace. A silly accident that led to a fracture, such as the aging life none of us want, huh?
Is that so? Seems we were both going through some rough times, huh?
Oh, excuse me. My name is Nora Yeager. Pleasure to meet you, neighbor.
Mine's Seth Harrison. The pleasure's all mine, Miss Yeager. I usually don't have the pleasure of talking to women, but thanks to the bright and beautiful Miss Yeager, I was able to change that. 2 days passed since she and I became roommates. I was scolded yet again by the nurse.
You've got to be kidding me. I told you, complete rest.
But please forgive me. With that kind of tone in her voice, I had no choice but to take a break. And I still have so much to do. That's when Miss Yeager called to me from beside me.
You've been scolded. Oh, I know. How about we try to get outside for a bit? It'll be a nice change of spirit.
So along with her, I decided to head for the central courtyard of the hospital. We sat down on the beach, and naturally the conversation became about my work. After listening to my story, she exclaimed,
Do your job even when you're hospitalized? Your boss actually said that? Unbelievable.
Seemed she was quite shocked about my situation. I started to realize once again that my workplace was quite the anomaly in today's society. There was always the excuse that I simply didn't have the time to think about its abnormality. But mainly I also got too accustomed to it and stopped thinking about it altogether. Around 10 days had passed since I first got hospitalized. I'd remembered something I wanted to ask my boss, but when I contacted him, "Excuse me, sir, there's something I'd forgotten to ask you." "Spill it." "I'd like to know what my work status is like at the moment." "Huh? The hell are you talking about?" "Am I working reduced hours, or am I working by the hour? In any case, my situation is that I'm helping out from my hospital room, so I was thinking that these hours won't be acknowledged as regular working hours." "What are you, stupid? Of course those are not regular working hours. Taking your leisurely time in your little hospital room to do your job?" "Indeed, that's what I thought. Well, in that case, how will my hours be acknowledged?" "Nothing whatsoever. They're seen as your vacation." "Pardon?" "Listen here, you're inconveniencing the company and its members, and asking for money is frickin' presumptuous. Obviously, this support work you're doing it for free. And by the way, it's not being seen as paid vacation, so be aware of that as you get back to it." In other words, I was pressured to do volunteer work, with a fractured leg no less, for these last 10 days. I just could not accept this. This was what made these feelings inside of me overflow. Indeed, I was making myself avoid thinking about it, but in reality, this job is too much. I loved and idolized this job when I first started out, but now, even opening up a laptop computer has become an immense pain for me. Drip, drip down onto the bedsheets. Damn it. God damn it. At that moment, my roommate, Miss Yeager, called to me.
Did something happen? Talk to me, buddy.
I told her about everything that just transpired. And about my inner feelings, not leaving a single detail out. She listened in silence until the very end, and then she said,
Quit your job at a place like that.
Of course, one could expect such a suggestion. Even for me, the first thing that came to mind was to quit. However, I was a sore loser, a strange little trait of mine, and I said, but if I just go on with that, I'll be frustrated. It'll make me look like I lost. Or better yet, like I would be running away. Either way, I'd look pathetic. But Miss Yeager made firm assertions.
What's with that nonsense? You're not running away. You're merely giving up on that company.
Giving up on that company? That was an idea that never occurred to me, but she wasn't done yet.
You're working so hard for this company, and you're also helping it do so well. You're just wasting your time if the company doesn't respect employees like you. You need not worry. There are so many other companies out there that would love to hire the likes of you.
What she said sent shockwaves across my entire body, and they were the best kind known to man. No one had ever told something even remotely close to this, not from my superiors, not from my boss. You're useless! Work faster, you stupid bonobo! Such profanity became a part of my life. Even when I did my job well, that would only be the accomplishment of my superiors and my boss. In this scenario, telling me to like my job and stay working at it is a Sisyphean task. But even then, I was hesitant and unsure of what to do. That's when Miss Yeager told me something surprising. Hey you, answer the phone, you useless prick! You have work that I frickin' asked you to get done by noon today! Sorry, I just came back from my examination. Enough with the bullshit excuses! Do your work now! No, I will not. I'm done with volunteer work. Hey yo, looky here now. You're abandoning your work even with the inconveniences you've caused. If there's no pay, it isn't work at all. Enough with the irony. Just quit if you're not up for the task. That's true, I should do that. What? I will submit my letter of resignation through the mail. After my leg is healed, I will stop by to greet you, sir. And that's how I told my boss my wishes to resign. As she'd said, I decided to give up on this company. But a few hours after we had this discussion via text messages, Hey! Like hell I'm letting you resign, bitch! Mr. Newton, as red as a ripe tomato, came storming into my room. So, you really don't think it's irresponsible of you to abandon us at this time? Don't forget your obligation to me after I made you into who you are. If you can't do your job here, you can't do it anywhere else either. Casting severe profanity, he attempted to renounce my resignation. To be honest, I was scared of him, and I think I was going to renounce it. But I used what Miss Yeager had advised me. You'll excuse me, but I've had enough. I'm resigning. You cannot change my mind. She told me to repeat this sentence over and over again. Doing so will eventually cause my opponent to give up. However, this particular opponent never broke, and we were at an impasse. When?
Good grief, he's more of a blockhead than I thought.
Miss Yeager, who was beside us this whole time, cut into the argument. Eh? The hell are you, bitch? Those who have no business here can shut the frick up. Perhaps this was the only time we agreed on something. But unfortunately, she wasn't without business here altogether. She took out a card and introduced herself, formally this time.
Forgive me for not introducing myself sooner. My name is Nora Yeager, and this year I've become the manager of the IT department of Antelope Commercial Affairs.
As she professionally identified herself, Mr. Newton's face became ever paler with each passing second. Manager of Antelope Commercial Affairs? Oh, how rude of me! My deepest apologies for this most hateful scene. Mr. Newton, now stammering, started to act even more humble. As he should. Antelope Commercial Affairs is the biggest and most prestigious of all our prime contractors. We receive many orders from this particular enterprise, and we manufacture their products. Furthermore, the IT department, lo and behold, is directly affiliated with our own enterprise. And if you became manager of that, you became a rare entity not even the head of our own department could meet regularly. She delivered fatal blows, all with calm composure. That beautiful smile packed a punch more powerful than a stick of dynamite.
I hear we've been working together with your enterprise for quite a long time. However, I honestly hesitate to continue associating with an enterprise that treats its employees so brutally. Additionally, I'm implementing numerous changes to the whole of the IT department, and I'm right in the midst of reviewing our subtractors to whom we send our orders. I believe it's best if you start to prepare for what might come.
She was using very indirect speech, intentionally, but basically, she told him that they'd no longer be sending us their orders. Mr. Newton became deathly pale and left the room as a sack of despair, without saying another word. My resignation probably isn't the biggest scandal here now, anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if all executive staff of my workplace paid a visit to apologize, but a simple apology will not be accepted by the likes of Antelope. Our company is packed with problems from foundational, social, and interrelational points of view. It reeked so strongly of power harassment that if sued, they could very well lose the battle. So there wouldn't be any real benefit to staying working with them, I suppose. Miss Yeager, thank you so very much.
This all means that God smiles upon those who work hard and well. If it meant helping you out, getting hospitalized wasn't such a bad thing after all.
A few weeks later, I heard from my ex-colleague that, as she'd stated, she'd broken Antelope's contract with the company, and that was a huge blow. Normally, it would have been able to overcome a single blow with some time and work, but as I mentioned, Antelope was its biggest contractor. This event spread like wildfire across the domain in entrepreneurship, and the trust in the company dwindled away very quickly. By the way, the other people who'd resigned before me all went and found jobs at other companies, and upon hearing that Antelope had broken their contract with their old workplace, they posted online the hell it really was. In the end, within 6 months, the company went bankrupt and was destroyed. Not only was he subject to numerous degradations and reductions in salary, he'd become what was once known as a deadwood worker. Think of those as people not in education, work, or training. And then after the company went bankrupt, his wife ran off away from him, and his prized house he apparently set up for selling it. He also apparently tried to find another job through acquaintances and former contractors. But what with all the criticism, it's probably impossible for him to find a new job in the same domain. An ex-colleague of his said, "He'd come running and begging at my company, but I left him out on the curb." When I got his message, my chest never felt so good inside. I don't know where he is or what he's doing now, but I don't care. But for some reason, my connections with him had seemingly lingered. What? Mr. Newton? Hey! To my great surprise, he was working part-time at a shopping mall near the station. He ran off into the back of the store, looking like he'd seen a ghost. A company executive, now a part-timer store clerk. Of course, these shopping malls help out society hugely, and it's a very respectable job. But it reeks the notion that he'd failed in life. Good riddance. As for me, I'm working well at Antelope's IT department. To tell the truth, before I declared my resignation to my boss, Miss Yeager had been hoping to employ me. That was the primary reason why I could fight back against so well. The chances she'd implemented had made the treatment of its employees like something out of a dream. And I'm now working in a very work-friendly environment. But there is one thing I'm still wondering about. Miss Yeager, may I inquire your real age?
What did you just say?
No, nothing at all, sir. Disregarding her looks, if she was the chief of a prestigious enterprise, she must be at least in her 30s, perhaps. Well, no curse on untouchable gods, I suppose. I will do my best at a famous, inspiring enterprise. You have my word.